Proof of funds for a permanent residence application. You're applying for your permanent residency in Canada and you want to know what kind of proof of funds are required, how much funds do you need to show, and how you can prove the proof of funds requirement. Welcome back to the channel, guys. In this video we are going to talk about the proof of funds for a PR application and specifically about an express entry application. And towards the end of the video we'll also talk about applications such as the Atlantic Immigration Program or the Provincial Nominee Program to understand what the proof of funds requirements are and how we can meet those fund requirements. Now, the good news is overall for most of the applications, if you are present inside Canada on a work permit and you're working in Canada, mostly you do not need to showcase proof of funds. And the reason for that is because you're already in Canada, you're working in Canada, so the government, IRCC, believes that you are making enough money in order to survive, in order to sustain yourself in Canada. On the other hand, if you are coming from outside to Canada, you're coming from some other country, then you do need to showcase proof of funds that you would be able to sustain yourself for at least a year when you come to Canada. In case you're not able to find a job or while you settle down in Canada, you have enough funds to sustain yourself. Now let's talk about proof of funds for express entry application. So on the screen you see the proof of funds for express entry application, and on this page you will see the information about who is exempt from proof of funds. As you can see, you do not need to showcase any proof of funds if you are eligible under the Canadian Experience class and if you're applying under the Canadian Experience class. The other case in which you do not need to show any proof of funds is if you have a valid job offer, that is an LMIA based job offer with which that is being mentioned in the application with which you are applying, and you're authorized to work in Canada. You don't need to showcase any proof of funds. Now, in case you're exempt, what to upload in the proof of funds section and what to mention in the proof of funds section in the application. With regards to mentioning, you can mention any number. You can mention 0, you can mention 1,000, you can mention 2,000, whatever you like. It doesn't really matter if you're exempt from proof of funds. If you mention 0, you won't have to upload anything. If you mention 1,000, they'll ask for a proof of funds document. In that case, you can mention just a letter saying that I am applying under the Canadian Experience class, so I'm exempt, or I have a valid job offer and I'm authorized to work in Canada, so I'm exempt. Whatever your exemption reason be, mention that in a letter and attach that letter. On the screen here, you can see a sample letter. This says that I am applying under the Canadian Experience class and hence I am exempt from proof of funds requirement. You can use this and you can upload this in the proof of funds section and you're good to go. Now, in case you're not exempt, how much money do you really need to prove that you have enough funds for your permanent residence application? On the screen here, you can see this table. This table has number of family members in one column and the funds required in the other column. Now, the most important part here is to determine how do you count your family size. Basically, your family includes yourself, if you have a spouse, and if you have any kids. Yourself, your spouse, and kids. These are the only people who get included in the family unit. So if you're single, your family size is 1. In that case, you need 13,757 Canadian dollars. If you have a spouse, family size is 2, and in that case you need 17,127 Canadian dollars. And if you have a spouse and 1 child, then the family size is 3, and you need 21,055 Canadian dollars to showcase as a proof of funds. So this way, based on your family size, you can use this table to understand what amount of funds you need. And now we will talk about what you can showcase to prove that you have enough funds. Here on the screen, you can see what IRCC accepts as proof of funds. So in order to prove your funds, you need to meet certain requirements. Number one is that the funds need to be liquid. You cannot use property, you cannot use illiquid, immovable assets to count towards this proof of funds requirement. You cannot borrow any money from anyone to prove that you have enough funds. All the money needs to belong to you, and it should be in terms of liquid assets, that is preferably cash that you can use in order to fulfill your requirements when you come to Canada. You can jointly use the money in that belongs to you and your spouse. That belongs to a joint bank account. You can also use the money that belongs to your spouse from your spouse's account. However, you need to prove that you have the permission, you have the access to those funds. So a letter from your spouse saying that they allow you to have access to these funds, and these funds can be used for proof of funds requirement for express entry, is good enough. Now, in order to prove the fund requirement, you can get a letter from your bank account. As you can see on the screen here, the letter should be printed on your bank's letterhead. That should include the accounts that you hold in that bank. It should include information about any outstanding debts that you have, and it should also include, the most important thing is, an average balance for the past 6 years. So the purpose of this is to see that it wasn't like in the last 2 months you submitted or you deposited a lot of money in order to meet this proof of funds requirements. The average balance for the past 6 months, a consistent balance, shows that these funds actually belong to you, and there hasn't been any borrowed money or some other source of money that you're using to prove the funds. So that is it, guys. This is how the proof of funds requirement works for express entry. Again, if you are eligible under Canadian Experience Class, a lot of people are eligible under Canadian Experience Class who are in Canada. You do not need any funds, none at all. $0 is what you need. So don't even worry about this requirement. If you are outside Canada, if you fall under the Federal Skilled Worker Program or Federal Skilled Trade Program, you do need to prove your proof of funds. And these are all the documents that we've discussed in the video. You can use that along with referring to the table that showcases how much actual amount you need as proof of funds. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this gives you an idea of proof of funds, and I hope this clarifies the confusion about whether you need proof of funds or not, because a lot of times folks inside Canada, students who have graduated in a year, they're not able to save up that much money, so they become stressed about proof of funds and start scrambling money, start scrambling bank statements together. You don't need any of that. You're exempt. Hopefully this was useful, and if you liked this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video. Good luck.